Now, thank you, Connor. So we appreciate you all being so punctual and welcome to the residency program information session. I am Matt Verlinich, the manufacturing program manager for Innovation Works. And today we also have Connor Clausen here as our manufacturing program associate and Andrew Caton, our electromechanical engineer. So we make up the manufacturing team within the robotics factory, which is managed by Kevin Dowling, our managing director. And we will be the ones who are providing the support to our future residents. So the residency program is a part of Innovation Works, and it's part of the Robotics Factory program. So for those of you who don't know, Innovation Works is a nonprofit economic development firm based out of southwestern Pennsylvania. Our whole mission is to have an impact on the economy of Pennsylvania by assisting startups based in southwestern Pennsylvania. So the Scale Shop and the residency program is brought to you by the funding that which we received from the Economic Development Administration through the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. So we were one of, I think, 30 lucky locations to be able to receive this funding and pilot these new programs. So what is a residency? A residency is access to our scale prototyping shop at the core fundamental of it. So we have over $1 million worth of tools and equipment, including laser cutters, CNC, professional CNC machines, and entry-level CNC mills, lathes, manual mill, lathe, 3D printers, full quality, set of gauge pins and blocks, ferro arm. We also have a whole array of 3D printers, including our brand new Metal X, which is a Markforged printer that can print Inconel, tool steel, and copper, as well as some other exciting metal alloys. And the residency also provides you access to our full suite of SolidWorks programs. So we have a premium subscription to SolidWorks, which includes their simulation software. So unlike a traditional makerspace, we also have access, you will also have access to this manufacturing team who you'll hear more from in a minute. And our whole goal is to help you mature your prototype as quickly as possible so that we can help connect you to our local manufacturing network. That way, we're sort of doubling the impact of the work that we do by not only helping your business, but also helping out the local network of manufacturers by trying to make more products here in the region. I will also make one other note that we have some additional budget to acquire additional equipment as well as robots. If we can use that to impact a number of companies as a resident, you'll have the opportunity to suggest additions to our shop. So where is the shop? This is Tech Forge, aka the Robotics Factory, based right here in Lawrenceville in Robotics Row, in the heart of Robotics Row. So it's a great building and facility, which we'll talk more about the sort of rest of the amenities after we get through the equipment side of things, which I know that's what really draws everybody in to a program like this. So you're probably wondering how we get access to the equipment, how are we going to ensure that it's a safe place for everybody to work? Well, every resident, whenever you first get started, will take our level 1 safety training class. And so this basically covers the general rules of shop safety, organization, layout, the rules of the road for our sort of entry-level equipment. And after taking this, you'll be able to use our hand tools and soldering irons and some sort of simple, low complexity equipment like that. Now, for your particular project, if you need to use one of our more sophisticated pieces of equipment, we will run a level 2 safety training for you or your teammates so that we can get you up to speed and make sure that you know how to use the piece of equipment safely without harming yourself or others. And these classes can be scheduled on demand as needed for your team. Our whole goal is to try to get you up to speed as quickly as possible. Now, there will be some equipment which we either don't have trainings prepared yet, or that piece of equipment, just in order to keep it reliably operating for the whole community, we will only run those jobs ourselves, but you'll be free to submit jobs to us so that we can sort of print it to run it on the Metal X or the Formlabs SLA printers or a CNC job. So that is the basic rundown on how the equipment will work, but what is the equipment? I'll pause here for just a second. This is actually linked on the Robotics Factory website. There is a little tab on the top that says equipment, and that's where this link will direct you to. As I mentioned before, our list of equipment is constantly growing, and so this list is the most up-to-date and that is dynamically updated based on what is up and running and ready for you to use. So here is the layout of our shop. At the top here, we have our, stock material section. So we provide a basic set of aluminum, steel, some engineering plastics, which are sort of all available on hand, ready for you to use just to make quick prototypes with. Anything sort of specialty or exotic that you might need, you'll have to provide yourself, but we're open to suggestions. We also have different dedicated testing spaces throughout. So if you need to set up a project to run a longer sort of cure time or to test assembly of something, we can work with you to customize that. And I'll talk more about that later. We have our additive manufacturing and QA section here on the left. And so that's where I'd mentioned we have a full set of gauge pins and dial indicators and the ferro arm, you name it. On the bottom, there's the general fabrication area. So sheet metal and basic metal fabrication equipment. In the corner, there's welding and finishing. So this is sort of our dull, dirty, or dirtier area of the shop. So grinding, finishing, sandblasting, things like that. In the center is our machining area, both manual mills along the wall and CNC mills in the center. And then we also have a variety of plastic casting, forming, and laser cutters for working with plastics. Now, one thing that's not pictured on this layout is our electronics lab, which is a dedicated room off to the side here that has a full set of basic electronic instrumentation equipment, soldering irons, oscilloscope, function generator, things like that. So now I will turn it over to Andrew to do a deeper dive on the technical support that both he and our newest team member, who actually starts on Monday, Luca DeGroot, will be able to provide you to assist in rapidly getting up to speed.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for everybody joining this session. This is a really exciting time because it's the first time really that Innovation Works and the Robotics Factory has been able to address the continuum of manufacturing challenges that product companies face. So we offer a variety of technical assistance services here. From training, that might be something like meeting with your team, training specific equipment knowledge so that they could run part prototypes at our shop. It might be something where we could go in, look at your quality management system and recommend changes or opportunities for growth there. We could even train on best practices in engineering design or build process so that you've really looked at securing your supply chain. In addition to like that training aspect, the other kind of passive service we offer is access. So not just access to equipment, but access to a full suite of engineering software, as well as dedicated engineering workstations. So we have 4 very high-powered engineering workstations that are also capable of running machine learning algorithms. They have pretty high-end dedicated GPUs, but we've also got premium subscriptions for SolidWorks, Autodesk, Polyworks, which kind of covers the full gamut of design for manufacturing and assembly, CAM, as well as inspection with Polyworks, where you can actually scan parts with a ferro arm, import the point cloud and actually generate comparative models that import into SolidWorks. A couple of examples of how we've utilized these in a more active approach and how we kind of run the review, design, and fabricate services are shown in the bottom three photos. These projects typically start out when a company has a need. They'll reach out to us, we'll scope out a project and put together a scope of work that they agree to that we can allocate resources to and actually deliver on. So both of these projects on the bottom right, there's a bicycle mount that we did for Velo AI, and that was a composite polymer base that held a LiDAR. And there were some interesting considerations there in terms of vibrational resistance, tolerancing, and different performance characteristics in the environment. We also worked on DFM and rapid manufacturing of these puck components, which are housing that goes on an athletic training device for Sensi Fit, one of our Alpha Lab gear companies. So in both of these types of projects, we set out a scope of work, understood what the direct challenges were when they needed to be delivered on. From there, we were able to actually jump in, help out on the CAD design, and then utilize some of the machinery in-house that might be level 3 to produce the parts and augment some of the skill sets on their team so that they can continue to hit their progress milestones without having to slow down to learn something new. So that's kind of how we would jump in an active role and try to augment some of those skill sets to keep accelerating those companies outside of your traditional accelerator. From there, I guess I will hand it off to Connor Clausen to talk more about the funding opportunities that we have here.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. I'm the manufacturing program associate here at InnovationWorks. I manage the Scalable Grant Program, which is one of our various funding vehicles. So before I dive into the nitty-gritty of the dynamic of the way the programs work, I want to give kind of like a brief background on the three of us. Both Andrew, Matt, and I all come from entrepreneurial backgrounds, and we all three have scaled businesses. So we have walked in the shoes of the kind of entrepreneurial journey of what it means and what it takes to scale your business. And I know from experience, one thing I wish I would have had more of is funding, right? I think a lot of us, we undermine well, maybe not, but the value. Everyone wants more money, right? Simply put. So I want to talk a little bit about how the residency will interface with the different funding vehicles that InnovationWorks offers. So the first, the analogy I like to use is, as a hardware entrepreneur, you're signing up for a marathon. You're getting ready to run this race, right? And the idea behind the residency is we are going to help you tie your shoes, double knot them, and maybe give you a couple hamstring quad stretches, and like kind of get you ready to enter the race of your business. So that's kind of the first function of the residency and how it operates within the different funding vehicles. But for the Scalable Grant Program that I manage, the goal here is to help incentivize hardware entrepreneurs to make their products here in Pennsylvania. So there are two kind of main outcomes from that. The first being, tax dollars and kind of business expenses arise within Pennsylvania. And that is one of our key functions as an economic development organization, is to stimulate and catalyze new business, new dollars, new jobs, and retain jobs here. And then the other side of that is, the connections that we're looking to make for you, or to help make, is to build a long-lasting business relationship with a local manufacturer. Onshore production here, and kind of bring it all back here. So it's kind of a two-sided coin there. So from the Scalable Grant perspective, the process is pretty straightforward. You'd submit your idea via our online application portal. We would help you define the scope of work a little bit if necessary. Then you'd go work with your local manufacturer, show us proof that you had paid that manufacturer, and then we'll reimburse you up to $25,000 for that project. So that is kind of that's the first funding vehicle that I help manage, and then my other team members here. Another pathway is our accelerator programs. That's kind of our traditional programming, how we all started out. That is managed by Jesse Mazzoni. And then, if you're running a 4-minute mile and you're ready to hop to the seed fund, kind of get ahead of the curve there, we have Jeffrey McDaniel and Afshan Khan to help kind of manage the seed fund. But from the scalable grant perspective, what we're trying to do is help facilitate the best connection for you as a hardware entrepreneur. I call it connecting the right dots, right? Like, we can send you to any manufacturer, but the idea here is we're prepping you to, work with the right manufacturer in the best way possible. And we have an awesome network of manufacturers that we've, started to build relationships with. So we call that the scalable network, and that is comprised of over 600 manufacturers here in Pennsylvania. So over the past 40 years, IW has, we've been developing super tight-knit relationships with a lot of these companies, from injection molders to PCB houses to full-scale contract manufacturers. As a resident, you'll receive access to this invaluable resource. The way I like to think of it is, if you're familiar with the website ThomasNet, it's like that, but you actually know who Thomas is, and you can shake his hand and go into his shop and really get a good understanding of, what the capabilities of that manufacturer is and how they can best help you. So I think, we all acknowledge that businesses really run because of humans, and here at IW, we have great relationships with those humans. One of our most recent rave reviews was, we're like Santa Claus for businesses. We bring them vetted customers who are they have the dollars to spend, and they understand what a manufacturer is going through, right? So we like to say we are trying to teach startups how to behave more like manufacturers, and we're trying to also teach manufacturers how to behave more like startups. So that's the scalable network. I'll pass it on to Matt to talk a little bit more about the additional benefits of the residency program.
Thanks, Connor. Before I move on to the next ones, I just wanted to make sure that we made it clear that if you get a residency, you do not get any guaranteed funding for either the scalable grant. It doesn't necessarily make you a part of any of our accelerators or the seed fund, but also being a part of the seed fund, our accelerators, or receiving a scalable grant does not exclude you from becoming a resident. The whole point of the residency is that we can help by working alongside you in the shop and helping to support you. We can help prepare you better to more effectively utilize any of these funding programs, as well as just to work directly with manufacturers. So no need to utilize any of our funding. We can still help connect you to our network. Now, it's also more than just the equipment. It's more than just the services that we provide you. You will have a key card to get access to our facility here in Lawrenceville. And that comes with, in addition to the shop, there's also co-working space. So there's lots of desks which are available sort of first come, first serve. We also have 21 different size meeting rooms. Andrew and I are actually both here in different meeting rooms. And you are free to use those meeting rooms. Once you're a resident, you can use our reservation system and use them to host meetings with your customers or investors or other clients. So it's a really nice benefit. The shop also has some oftentimes overlooked resources like a loading dock. We not only have a loading dock at dock height with an automated dock plate, but we also have a massive drive-in road height door that enter into our shop. We also have a really nice air compressor, which I forgot to put on here. 2 kitchens, we provide coffee and snacks, and a rooftop patio, which on days like this is really nice. But you know, we're really excited for spring. Let's just put it that way. Didn't get much use through the winter. But last but not least, we also actually have free parking here. So you'll never have to worry about finding a spot nearby and then schlepping your stuff in and out of the shop. So speaking of schlepping stuff in and out of the shop, this is another common issue that we would run into. If you're working on a physical prototype, it can be kind of a pain in the butt to bring it in and out time and time again every time you want to work on it. So we have a variety of storage options throughout the shop for both sort of temporary and more long-term storage throughout your residency, which I think I've also neglected to mention is if you're awarded a residency, you will have that residency from 1 year. Now it's not a hard and fast rule, so you'll be eligible to apply to renew it. And if we have the space and you're sort of still making progress on your business, then we'd absolutely love to award you that renewal. Our end objective is to build a really vibrant community of people as big as we possibly can, because that's how we believe that we'll make the greatest impact. So something else I wanted to point out in this picture and sort of the back right, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but back right and back left corners, we have one of our Accelerate companies, the Voyage, who has a robot set up that they use to test their bin picking algorithm. And in the back left is a water tank, which another one of our Accelerate companies uses to test their underwater robot. So these are examples of some of the flexible situations which we can do to accommodate your specific needs. And then there's the more mundane sort of lockers in the middle there where you can just have a specific closed lockbox that you can keep tooling or things like that in. So you might be asking yourself, okay, how much does all of this cost? And if you're already clued into the fact that it's free, you would probably be asking yourself, well, that sounds too good to be true. How is that possible? What do we get out of it? So all we ask in return is to be able to prove that this program is having an impact to our funder. So if we can prove that, then we can keep this project going and continue to have that impact. The only way that we are going to be able to do that is if you share your stories with us, share testimonials, let us talk about your project, fill out our impact surveys and other sort of surveys to let us know how much your business has grown since we've helped you and any connections that you've made to help our network's business grow. So if we connect you to a manufacturer and you end up working with them for 5 years, the value that you represent as a customer to them, we want to be able to talk about that. So as I mentioned before, our ultimate goal here is to build a really vibrant community that is self-perpetuating. So we don't want to be the bottleneck to all of the impact that's happening. We want to be the hub and a spoke of this growing network effect. Now, we'd like to open it up for questions and discussion because we didn't really want to talk at you for this whole time. We are excited to hear what you're working on and how we can help. But if you already feel like you have enough information and you're excited to get started, this QR code will link you directly to our application page, which is currently open. All right.
Looks like Brent has a question.
Yeah. Let's see if we can make this work. Here we go. All right, Brent, thank you. And I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but it is. I think you should be able to talk now.
I mean, he's got a couple questions. Well, he has one about hiring engineers in Pittsburgh. Can they work here if they're selected?
Hmm. That is a good question. So I'm assuming if your business is not based in southwestern Pennsylvania, would you be eligible for a residency if you simply hired engineers in Pittsburgh to work on it? That would depend. We can dig in deeper with you on sort of the nuance of where is your business based, but ultimately the real goal that we're looking to have is revenue growth of companies that pay taxes in the state of Pennsylvania. So it might or might not be a good fit. The real value is having a community of people who are actively here using the shop.
I'd definitely say where it seems like you have a co-founder here, feel free to apply, and we can kind of cross that bridge when we get to it, and have a more detailed conversation once we get all of the facts and details.
Thank you. All right. So I'll take Rindoff here and move on. So let's see. Thanks so much. Excited to do something.
So, Matt, there were two that came in during the presentation. One, if I'm from Western PA, can I attend this program? I need to develop a robotic arm for my prototype. So maybe we could talk a little bit about like eligibility criteria and things like that.
Yeah. So eligibility wise, yes, if you're based out of southwestern Pennsylvania and you're working on a project that will help to mature your business, that makes you eligible for a residency. Now, the way that we're going to move forward with our sort of selection and admittance into this program, because there's going to be a whole variety it's a spectrum of how much people will actually utilize the shop. We can admit one resident or one company that could have 10 people, and then another one would have only one person using the shop. So each month we will have a selection meeting where we sort of rank the applications based on what we believe will be able to help the most and have the most impact on your business. And if we have more spaces than applicants, we will just proceed with admitting everybody. And if we don't have enough space, we will respond to you guys at that time and let you know that you're either we'll ask you to revise your application, or we'll put you on a wait list until the space is available. Not sure if that answers the question fully. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I think that was good. The anonymous attendee said thank you, so I think you nailed it.
Cool.
James is asking what if his co-founder lives in West Virginia. I feel like you kind of went over that already.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, but we would just need to see some sort of significant presence in Pennsylvania, whether another team member is based out of here or other employees, or the business is incorporated in Pennsylvania, things like that.
I think one question that I'd have for the audience is just if anybody's willing to share a project that they're really excited about that this program might be able to help.
Don't all jump at once.
Yeah, we apologize if the mechanism here is a little bit weird. This is sort of our first time trying to facilitate via Zoom. So if you raise your hand, we can give you the ability to talk, and then you can speak for yourself.
Oh, that's neat. Nick is working on a smart rollator, We have a robot that charges electric vehicles, trucks, and cars. That's pretty cool. The typical NDA, I'm familiar with those.
That's a great question. So, how do we protect our client's IP from disclosure? So, as a resident, we will expect you to protect your own IP. If you're working in the space, we can help facilitate the protection of your IP by sort of providing you with a cabinet where you can lock up anything that is sensitive, but otherwise the ultimate liability is going to fall to the resident themselves to protect it, because if you leave drawings out on a table, it's possible that somebody can walk by and we're not going to have any control over that. If you leave your model up on a computer, again, it's possible that somebody could walk by and see that. But we will do everything in our power to provide you with the ability to work in the space without compromising intellectual property, but you'll also have to meet us halfway and compartmentalize what you're working on.
Yeah, this is a pretty common thing that we've seen. You can, I'd say, maybe utilize the space to address parts of your project at a time, especially parts that are not confidential, because very rarely do you have a project that the entirety of everything that has to do with it is confidential. If it's a mounting plate with a couple of nuts and bolts and something like that, or housing, nobody's going to know what that is, especially if you don't have the drawings for it hanging around or any of the pieces that go to it. So there are some strategic ways to kind of manage that risk while still being able to utilize the resources that are here in the open.
Yeah. And that's a great question too. Do we purge model data from our 3D printers? So that sort of depends on the 3D printer. So the Formlabs and the Markforged printers print from the cloud directly to the printer. We'd have to look into what your specific concerns are there as to how it gets purged on those pieces of equipment. But a lot of our other pieces of equipment you can operate by loading your model file in with an SD card, at which point there shouldn't be anything left because it runs from the SD card. And then all of the computer workstations that we have in the shop itself, if you're using those to generate tool paths or do simulations or anything like that, they actually have a program called Deep Freeze installed on them, which every time the computer is restarted, it completely reformats the computer. So there's nothing left on the computer. And that sort of comes back to you have to protect your own IP, because if you don't restart it and you leave it up, or you save it to the desktop and you don't restart the computer when you're done, it is technically there.
But only for a few hours. I'll note that we have the computers set up so that they can restart like every night at midnight. So, we have some controls there, but we can't stop people from forgetting to save to the desktop until that reset hits.
Great point, Andrew. What were some of the other questions you had thought?
Matt, and there's a question about residents. Are they a mixture of already incorporated businesses and individual inventors that may not have yet formed companies?
That is a great question. So as of right now, residents have to have a company incorporated because we will sort of outline the terms of the agreement that you're agreeing to as a resident with the company entity itself. So the residency is awarded to a company, and then the company can have individuals under it that get individual badges and access to the shop. So it can be a simple LLC that costs, $100, $200, and you can form it in 3 days. But at the end of the day, we do work with companies at all sizes. So they can be companies that you literally just formed to explore this idea, and you're trying to get from 0 to 1, sort of your first concept. We could also work with these accelerator stage companies that are still trying to optimize their product for both, product market fit and scalability. And then we can also work with more mature companies who have a team of engineers working on a project or on taking their version 1 of their low volume product and prototyping how they can sort of make a design change to get that to scale. That is a great question. Questions.
Just to clarify, the program does not require the company to contribute equity or any other in-kind payment for these services.
Correct.
That's correct. Yep.
It's an unbelievably amazing, opportunity that I hope everybody that applies and is an awardee. I hope that you maximize the benefit, because it's unreal to have access to equipment. That's one thing, but like free consumables on 3D printers and stock of exotic materials like different grades of stainless steel, and some of the end mills for a CNC mill might cost several $100s, and that's not an expense that you'd have to bear in producing your prototype. So please utilize all of that to your benefit, and it's basically free money in terms of mitigating the cost of having to purchase those supplies yourself.
Correct. And that is another sort of distinction between this residency program and the accelerator program or our seed fund. So we do not provide you with any cash, any hard, here's your money. So we don't ask for any equity in exchange for that. However, if you do need funding in order to, build your team, scale the business, do sort of break even pilots or free pilots with people, then the Accelerate program or Alpha Lab Gear program are sort of a great fit for that, because you will also get access to the robotics factory as a resident if you get into any of our accelerator programs, but you will also get cash on top of that to be able to spend money on operations and your prototype. So one question we got to was, what happens if I don't use it? So we recognize that, and that's partially one of the reasons why we structured the residency in this way, so that it's very flexible. We're striving to meet you where you are, and we recognize that there's sort of seasons and surges in every business. So it's perfectly all right to receive your residency and then not show up for 3 months because you're sort of busy actually field testing something. And then we recognize that you might come in and then you'll have like 3 people in here every day for a month, just working to meet a deadline. That is the type of surges that we expect, and also why we're trying to balance our resources by admitting people on a regular and recurring basis.
Matt, do we want to talk at all about training as well? Kind of like how often, how do we get trained, things like that?
Yeah, that is a good question. So the level 1 training, which is basically just the general safety crash course of how do you work safely and effectively in our shop, we will do that in mass once a month as we enroll sort of the next crop of applications. We can also do that orientation virtually or sort of on an ad hoc basis if you end up needing to add members to your team because you're growing. And the level 2 trainings, we will try to cluster and get as many people in, but those level 2 trainings will probably max out at 4 to 6 people per training, just so that we have enough time. And they could be anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how much experience you have with that piece of equipment. We will just need to basically give you the rundown of how this particular piece of equipment works in our shop, where are its essential tools or accessories stored, what is the startup and shutdown protocol for that piece of equipment, and what are the material sort of limitations or use limitations of that piece of equipment, so that we know that you understand what it can be used for in our shop environment. And then we'll have you demonstrate sort of proficiency with that piece of equipment. Now, those we'll try to, like I said, we'll try to cluster. If you have like 4 team members you want to do, we'll try to find a time where they can all do it. Otherwise, our technician, the robotics technician, Luca, who's starting on Monday, will be in the shop during all normal business hours and available sort of on an ad hoc basis to be able to do a training on the spot.
Nice. A question came up for me. Laurent had applied to our program, and I was thinking, oh, like, what is our, how often are we going to review applications?
So we will review them as they come in. So basically everybody here, Connor, Andrew, myself, Luca, when they join, and Kevin will review these applications on a rolling basis, but we will only meet once a month. So towards the end of the month, we'll meet and we'll rank those applications and decide how much capacity we have at the moment to admit people, and whether the application stands as a good fit or if we need more information at that time. So our applications just opened this Wednesday. Our first review and selection meeting will occur at the end of April, and we're hoping to have the first round of our official residents enrolled by or in the shop and working by mid-May. And you may have seen that we announced our first sort of 5 residents. That was our test cohort. So there are 5 residents who currently have access to the shop that we were prototyping all of these systems with. And then we also we still have our first cohort of Accelerate companies and our most recent cohort of Alpha Lab Gear companies, who are all in the shop currently. Yeah. We'll hang out here. You guys don't have to feel, don't feel free or don't feel obligated to hang out here with us if you don't have any questions. But if you do, fire it your way. Otherwise, I think we can just keep ad-libbing more questions or clarifications as they come to mind. I just had a thought, but it fled. So now I'm just stalling for time. One thing that we would really appreciate is if you know anybody else who might be a good fit for this program, feel free to share this presentation or any of the website or the information with them. And we're happy to work with everybody of all sizes, small to larger companies. We're happy to meet with you and discuss it. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to build a really vibrant, robust, interconnected community here that can really help everybody out. So.
I'm typing out this answer to Varent. He's asking about the length of the program, but it's a year-long Varent, and pending resources and bandwidth, you are able to reapply after your 1 year is up. I'm gonna type it out so you can have it in writing too.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were to apply right now, before the end of April, we would review that application, weight it amongst the other people who have applied within this month, and by the time you finish the contracting process, say your start date was May 15th, you would have until May 15th of 2025 for the agreement period, and probably around April of next year, you would want to apply for renewal if you were still actually finding value out of using the residency in the shop. And at that time, you would then sort of be considered again amongst all of the applicants that are applying at that time. I would like to invite you to dig in deeper on any of the programs which we manage. There's a QR code that links to each of our office hours. So that's how you can get in touch with us to dig in deeper if you have questions before you want to apply, or if you want a connection to any of the resources or other programs that InnovationWorks offers.